I'm any new province, and is this possibly Pauper playable? That's the question I want to answer about Adventurous Impulse, Vicious Offering, and Fungal Infection, 3 cards that were printed in the new Magic the Gathering set Dominaria. The shell I'm trying these cards out in is a beloved archetype in the Pauper community. It's Golgari Aristocrats. The reason I wanted to try these cards out here is, for one, it's a really sweet deck, and 2, I think all of these spells synergize very well with what the deck is trying to do. One of the issues with Golgari Aristocrats is that it's sort of inconsistent and it cheats on its mana a lot because its curve is so low. I think Adventurous Impulse is going to help a lot with that. It costs 1 green, it's a sorcery, and it says, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This will help keep our sparse land drops flowing while dinging us into exactly the right mix of sacrifice outlets and creatures we'd like to sacrifice. This deck would typically run 4 copies of the card Tragic Slip, which will kill just about anything in the format but needs a sacrifice outlet to be all the way online. I've replaced the Tragic Slips with the new Vicious Offering, which costs 1 and a black, they're an instant, and they say, kicker, sacrifice a creature. You may sacrifice a creature in addition to any other cost as you cast this spell. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. If this spell was kicked, that creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn instead. The last new card we're trying out is Fungal Infection. It costs 1 black, it's an instant, and it says, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Create a 1/1 green Saproling creature token. This card can kill fairies or an unflipped Delver at instant speed, and it leaves behind a warm body for our sacrifice outlets or our pump spells. In a pinch, we can even use it to kill off one of our own creatures to take advantage of their death triggers. The reason this is called an Aristocrats deck is because it has a very strong self-sacrifice theme. I'll explain that package next. First, we have Carrion Feeder, which is a 1-mana 1/1 that says, Carrion Feeder can't block, but that's okay, we're going to attack with it most of the time anyway. Its ability is sacrifice a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Carrion Feeder. Next is Mortician Beetle. It's another 1/1 for 1 black, but this creature's ability is, whenever a player sacrifices a creature, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Mortician Beetle. You can probably already see why this goes so well with Carrion Feeder. The rest of our creatures could do pretty well on their own considering they're all 2-for-1s, but they're particularly good here because each of them provide 2 sacrifice triggers for Carrion Feeder. The first card we'll be intentionally sending to the graveyard is Brindleshote. It costs 1 and a green, it's a 1/1, and it says, when Brindleshote dies, create a 3/3 green boar creature token. Ideally, we'll be sacrificing this to a Carrion Feeder or a Vicious Offering, but I'm sure our opponents won't mind helping us upgrade this to a 3/3 by attacking with their own creatures. Next, we have Nest Invader, which costs 1 and a green for a 2/2, a grizzly bear, not a bad rate on its own, but Nest Invader says, when Nest Invader enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token. It has sacrifice this creature, add a colorless mana to your mana pool. This makes Mortician Beetle better on its own, but we're cheating on lands, so the extra mana might come in handy sometimes. We also have Young Wolf, which used to pop up in mono-green Stompy decks when Chainer's Edict was on the rise. For us, it's just something that we can sacrifice twice to our Carrion Feeder to get the wheel spinning. It costs 1 green, it's a 1/1, and it has Undying, which means when this creature dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on. Our final bit of feeder fodder is Blister Pod. It costs 1 green, it's a 1/1, and it says, Devoid, this card has no color, maybe just a fringe case if we have to get in the way of a Guardian of the Guild Pact or something. It also has, when Blister Pod dies, create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token. It has sacrifice this creature, add 1 colorless to your mana pool. This is just a little bit better than the creature token we get off Nest Invader, and I'd have no problem suiting it up with a Rancor and starting to beat down. This deck has a tendency to dissolve its own board into Carrion Feeder counters. That's why we're running a bunch of pump spells so that we can finish the game before a control deck can turn the corner. First, we have Hunger of the Howl Pack. It costs 1 green, it's an instant, and it says, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Or, if you have Morbid, which means if a creature died this turn, you can put 3 +1/+1 counters on that creature instead. We're also running Rancor, which is probably the top contender keeping Adventurous Impulse out of the best 1-drop green spell in the format. Rancor costs 1 green, it says, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and has trample, which is kind of fine on its own, but what makes it really good is, when Rancor is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return Rancor to its owner's hand. Our last non-land card is just a little bit of card advantage in Unearth. It costs 1 black, it's a sorcery, and it says, return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It also has cycling for 2 generic mana, just in case we don't have anything to return from our graveyard. This is so great with Brindle's Show. We can bring it back from the graveyard, sacrifice it to Carrion Feeder, and get another 3/3. Okay, let's have a look at this mana base. First, we have 2 Golgari Rot Farms, Karoo lands in black and green. They enter the battlefield tapped. When they enter the battlefield, we have to return a land we control to our hand. When they become untapped, they add a black and a green. We have 4 Jungle Hollows, just standard Pauper duels. They enter the battlefield tapped and gain us a life. When they become untapped, they add a green or a black. We have 1 Colony Garden for producing a token that we can sacrifice to our Carrion Feeder. Only 1 because we need a lot of untapped lands. Speaking of untapped lands, we have 4 basic swamps and we have 7 basic forests. Lots of untapped forests so that we can cast our Adventurous Impulse on time. Alright, let's have a look at this sideboard. First, we have 2 Chainer's Edicts to stop our opponent from going all in on a single creature. We have 3 Feed the Clan to keep us out of burn range. We have 2 Serene Hearts to stop our opponents from boggling up. We have 3 Gleeful Sabotage to blow up Affinity's lands. We have 1 Crypt Rats just in case our opponent's going really wide with X1s. And we have 2 Rite of Consumptions so that our Tron opponents can't fog us out. And there you have it, Vicious Aristocrats. We're going to take this deck live into a league at twitch.tv/AnyNewProvince. We're there every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Atlantic time playing possibly Pauper playable decks. Before I go, I just want to remind you can like the video or subscribe to the channel down below. I'd seriously appreciate it. It's a great way to let me know you've enjoyed everything, and it really encourages me to keep making great Pauper content. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this deck tech, and hopefully I'll see you on Tuesday night.